Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So you open this up tonight, Amr?
Yes, I got you.
All right.
Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the R2F show. Today we are doing a show on deprogramming brainwashing. Sorry, I'm okay. Anyway, inshallah Mubarak will be here. He is praying Salat al-Isha, and then he'll be here. Real quick before we get started. Next week the show will be on Wednesday. We have a scheduling conflict on Thursday, so we're not going to be here Thursday. So inshallah next Wednesday we should be here for the R2F show. And real quick before we get started, right? Okay, so for folks who have complaints with the show, right? And specifically with like complaints about what I might say on the show or how I present my ideas of thoughts on the show, and then from hearing the show, watching the show, you then go and say, okay, well, I don't like the way that I'm present this on the show, right? So I have a connection to him. I'll call it his father, right? And then you're gonna call my father, right? You're gonna have to talk to him on the phone for X amount of hours or however long you're on the phone with him, and then he has to go from that conversation and talk to me and voice your complaints to me. All right, listen, you can contact me directly. All right, if you have my father's number, you can ask him for my number. If you don't want to do that, my number is 804-319-6702. All right, you can freely call me. All right, there will be some caveats though. All right, any conversation we have will be recorded. I'm going to ask you 3 questions because generally, if you're calling with complaints about the show, you're probably in support of the Jamaat. So that's generally how it works. So the 3 questions is very simple. All right. Is when Jelani said fear Allah or fear me, what did that mean to you? Right. Second question is, if I said it's okay to call me Allah, what would you say? And the third question is very simple. Would you let Mubarak Jelani halala your daughter? And then after you ask those questions, if your answers are good, right, you get 3 minutes of my time to voice your complaints. All right. So after you do that, all right, I'm gonna say shukran for your time. Hang up the phone. But it will be recorded. I have license to upload it to the R2F chat, to YouTube, but whatever I feel like it. That's how it is. So if you want to call me, it's 804-319-6702. You don't have to call my father or mother or sister or anyone that's close to me. You can call me directly with your complaints, concerns. I speak on the show. They don't. All right. So you can speak to me directly. All right. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. All right. Jaffer, you muted.
Alhamdulillah, we've been doing this for, Josh, like over a year now, right? At least just the show part of it.
Yeah.
But we've been doing the R2F Dawah for multiple years, and we've given ample opportunity for people to contact us directly and remain confidential and all that. But that's been there. But it's to the point now where if you've got something to say, have the courage to come forward and just address people directly instead of like moving behind the scenes and trying to. And it's really what it is a form of manipulation. It's a form of gaslighting, trying to get people that are close to you, connect to you,
it's not going to work. By the way, both of my parents love me, and they like my mother watches every show. All right, so like you're not about to like say anything to my parents. Like, oh well, yeah, he was disrespectful to me. No, everyone around me knows I'm not disrespectful to anyone. That's not how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to just sit there and just lie to them. Like, oh, that sounds like him at all. So it's not how it's going to go. So if you want to talk to me, it will be recorded once again. I'll ask you the same questions. You answer them, cool. If you don't answer them well, hang up the phone. So, that's it.
Yeah, and it's funny how, with the people from this particular cult, they have a problem with the stuff we say, whether we say, we laugh, giggle too much. We might use, some profanity, sitting there now and then. We might use the N-word sometimes. But none of these people called up like their cult leader when he was calling people dogs and cursing people to hell. And no one was calling him up. So tonight's show, alhamdulillah, it's going to be a quick one. So if you have questions, post them in the chats now or as soon as you think of them so we can quickly address them. We are going to be going to a new time and a new format. We will let you guys know about that. What we want, what our intentions are is to give us enough time to prepare for each show so that we can have enough good content when we actually do the shows. And because we're all busy, we have school, we have work, we have families, all these different things. So it's hard to prepare each week for the show. And especially when we're moving away from TMOA specific content, that stuff we can just wing off, shoot from the hip because we just know it so well. But when we're moving on, we need to actually prepare and have good content ready for you guys. So we're going to try to do that. We'll keep you guys informed on that. Tonight, we're just going to have a casual conversation about really just like deprogramming after you're leaving the cult, some ways that you can get rid of the brainwashing, the indoctrination that we have. So let me see. I think I can share my screen unless you have it.
I don't want you
to you got it.
Smoke your computer.
Yeah.
I got you. All right, there you go. All right. So
all right. So it says how to do undoing brainwashing, and you can just scroll down and we have
step.
First step is this actually gives us steps to how to brainwash somebody. So you see the first one's isolating the target.
Yeah.
The second one is breaking down the target. And like these, we talk about this all the time in the stuff in the cults. This is like you see, this is exactly what it is. Yeah. Promising a new identity, rewarding the target for joining. That's how you brainwash somebody. So
how you unbrainwash them.
So again, isolating them from the cult. So this can take different forms. It depends on what kind of cult you're dealing with. This may be talking specifically like about those traditional cults that are, like they're totally cut off from society. They don't let their people leave their properties or their compounds. Whereas, there's other cults that, they isolate their people in different ways. So, and so what you want to do is you want to reverse how they were brainwashed. So you don't have to isolate them from the cult, but you have to cut off their dependence from the cult, right? And that dependence comes in the form of like social activities, financial activities, living activities, all these different things. And to counter that, you also have to get them to start interacting with the Ummah, with other communities. So that's part of breaking that isolation. So when it says isolate them from the cult, it's easy to say that when you're talking about that in a non-Muslim sense, where you could just cut family ties and all that. But you have family, you have friends, you have relationships. It's not advisable to just cut people off depending on what your style is. Like if you're a person like me, I just don't care. I'll just move on. It doesn't matter. But
exactly,
not everybody's like that. Yeah. So you have to keep that in mind. But the main thing is you have to undo that. You have to break that dependence, that whatever they're depending on it on. So like people have their different reasons for why they're in the cult. We see now as it plays out, like for instance, in the TMOA cult, the one that we're experienced with, they don't give a crap about who the leader is. They didn't give a crap about Mubarak Jelani. They didn't give a crap about his family. They don't really give a crap about Noor. They just care about whoever's in that seat because it makes them feel good. What they really care about is that social connection that they have with the Jamaat. That's what they're really afraid of losing, right? That's the thing. So you have to, for yourself, you have to start creating other social connections outside of TMOA. Yeah. So that's the first one.
And it's basically just like we said last week of ingratiating yourself. I mean, we have a host on it, so you go back, watch the show about ingratiating back to the Ummah, making yourself useful, being presentable, like all the stuff that you can do to go back to the Ummah at large, because they are out there. So that social aspect is still there. You just have to go find it. Yeah. So
the next one, it says present yourself as an in-group, which I don't know exactly what that means. It means that you show the target that you're on their side. I guess that's if you're working with somebody that's still brainwashed or indoctrinated. This may go into like the Dawah piece of it, which when you're actually giving Dawah to people that are still brainwashed by the cult, when you're speaking against their beliefs and everything they've been, brought up, they're going to look at you like an enemy.
Take it personal.
But you have to make some kind of emotional connection with them and like say, no, this is for your benefit. In the Islamic context, that is, really the main goal, why we're all created, why we're all here, is to actually hopefully make it to paradise, to pass this test. So that's what we're really concerned about, is you to, not go to hell, or any of us to go to hell. So that's the real, we're on that side in that aspect. We're all supposed to be Muslim. So why can't we have an open conversation? So that's a strategy that can help. You have to make an emotional connection. And if you looked at our shows in the past, the ones where we're doing interviews and people are going through their past, like we're talking about Scheherazade, we're talking about Khalifa MJ,
Yeah.
the people that went into real details about, you know, what they went through, and you create that emotional, you know, connection with people, and it actually shows that, you know, there's a connection there, and people realize it's not just like a selfish thing that's going on.
Yep. Next one we have poke holes into their beliefs, which is something that we do regularly. Is try to shine light upon the falsehood that they believe in, whether they want to admit it or not, or rather it's actually gets through to their skulls. We put the information out there. And listen, like we say all the time, you could dislike Mubarak, Jaffer, and I, but please do your own research. It's not like we're giving you our own ijtihad on these topics. We're actually just reading from a book or you know, the Quran itself. So if you don't like the way we present it, please go do your own research. Look for the things we're saying. Okay, well, I don't like the way they said it, but if you go and read the Quran or the tafsir that Mubarak quoted or Jafar quoted, I quote, then you can go there and see that what we're saying is exactly what's said there. And so it's really up to you at the end of the day, because I mean, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink it. So just poking holes in their beliefs, it's a solid strategy. And really, this whole like this is like a psychological article about just, you know, really reprogramming the brain from scratch, because like as a human, it's very easy to condition other humans, right? You can condition them, and so if you're in a cult, you've been conditioned to think a certain way, act a certain way, behave a certain way. And so by doing so, this is your new norm, and humans are creatures of habit. So the habits we have, we continue to do. So if you're in a cult, this is your habit. To the fourth one.
And also, like, I want to like stress that these are things that if you're in the stage of like doing dawah, you can use, because what you could do is you can like we just Googled this, just found like an article online. There's tons of resources out here. What you have to keep in mind is, one, they come from two main sources. One source is either like a atheist type source, where they're like they're bringing people outside of cult beliefs, but their goal is to like have people not believe in any religion, right? But you can still take some of their framework to kind of like, because they know how to deal with people that are indoctrinated. The second one is mainly like Christian sources, where they're trying to, because there's a lot of Christian cults. We live in a Christian country. There's a lot of Christian cults. So there's a lot of Christian-based resources out there. But you can take the ideas and the main concepts and Islamically apply them, but also because a lot of people aren't at that stage of like where they're actually like actively giving dawah, like, you know, like the people of R2F, or they might be doing it privately. But most people are in that stage of they're dealing with it privately, internally. So like when you look at that point right there where it says poke holes into their beliefs, make it about yourself. Poke holes into your own belief. So like question everything that you've been taught, because if it's truth, when you question it and you research it, it should play out like, oh, this is correct.
Yeah.
But when you actually go through your cult beliefs and challenge every little thing, and like, hey, I wonder if this is true. Even if you think it's true, play devil's advocate with yourself and see if you could disprove it. And most of the times you'll go and do your research and find that, oh man, this is some bull crap that I was believing. Let's see. The next one is show them how they've been brainwashed. Okay, so this is directly related to just like giving dawah to somebody, and it kind of ties into poking holes in their beliefs. But this is like really like straight common sense, rational, logical arguments and different scenarios you're going to pose to the people to try to get them to recognize different contradictions. You know, so like for instance, for instance, let's say that the people that you're talking to are involved in a cult that drinks like hair water as like some miracle cure. Then you could say, okay, think about what you're doing. You're drinking hair water and you think it's some miracle cure, but you're still going outside and wearing a mask. You're still going to get vaccinations. You're still getting COVID. Like, can you see like the contradiction? It's like basic stuff like that to get them to just wake up to like to the common sense of just the stuff that they're doing. Where in a lot of stuff, with especially in the cults, you'll see that they'll do stuff and it'll be all fine when it's behind closed doors, when it's on the cult properties and these different things, but they wouldn't dare do it in the public or around other Muslims. Let's see.
So number 5 is show them the MO of other brainwashers. It really gives like a deep dive into showing how the cult has an agenda and how you've been brainwashed, and then deprogramming them from there would be the way to do that, and showing that you aren't alone. Because for a lot of folks, like they feel like their stories isolated. It's an isolated incident, but in reality, like many people in the cult we come from, they kind of experience similar things, from the spiritual abuse to like the divorce, taking your wife away from you, like your husband away from you, moving kids, families, like all that stuff. So you kind of experience similar things when you're in a cult, and that's part of the community. Ironically, is you guys all share the same trauma.
One thing about showing them the MO of other brainwashers, that's kind of hard, because I mean it's easier said than done. Put it that way, because in my experience, if you could ever get them to actually look at other brainwashers, then they're pretty much heading out anyway. But most of the people that are in, they don't even want to look, hear, or think about any one else that you're even trying to compare their guy to. So it's very hard to get them to even show them information like that. I mean, I think they would definitely have to be pretty close to already coming to this conclusion themselves, or at least questioning heavily what they're doing. But to be able to talk with and show someone in a cult, in my experience, is very hard to get them to just talk to you in general, let alone talk to you about showing them somebody else, or how their guy is just like this other deviant person. So I don't know.
One good strategy is to, and it takes, like, it depends on who you're working with and how, like you said, how much access you actually have to having a dialogue with somebody. But like, I know some people have had success with one, if you know the person and you know like their triggers, if you know somebody's like, like they'll flip out about hearing about a halala, right? So like you explain to them the halala process, and you're like, oh, that's horrible, and you're like, yeah, man, Shiites do this and do that. And like, what do you think about it? Oh, they're horrible, horrible. Then you throw in like, well, your sheikh did it, and then repetitive things like that sometimes get them to start thinking a little bit. If you could give it into a context where they're not thinking about like their group or their leader, and then after they like made a stance and like that is wrong and they acknowledge that it's wrong, then like tying it back, like, okay, well, what about this now that your sheikh does it or your sheikha does it or whatever. But like you said, it's tough. It's tough. I remember I watched other deprogramming documentaries. Very good documentary. This Christian guy who started actually cult deprogramming. I don't even know if he's still alive, but it was on Netflix. It was very good documentary, and he came up with the whole science behind like deprogramming. This is back in the day. They actually used to go like kidnap people from cults and then lock them in a hotel room and just basically spend like a couple of weeks like deprogramming them. Right? We can't do that crap anymore. But the one thing he said is the main thing that he focused on was exposing that their leader was a fraud. So the whole 2 weeks he would just say, your leader said this, your leader did that, he does this, he messes with, just over and over and over and over. And then that was his strategy. So if you can break down the whole aura around their cult leader, it goes a long way to kind of waking them up.
All right, on to number 6, which is restore their previous identity. Restoring their identity, who they were before they joined the cult and got brainwashed. And then we'll cover this one also right here because it's here, and also I'm tired. So update their identity, and and get them to be a new person because they're no longer in the cult, and they have their experiences from the cult that they can't just forget about. So now they have to move forward with everything that they know from the cult and try to acclimate back to society.
So so we could have a case study. I mean, we all know, okay, TMOA. We've mentioned them a million times on the show. And for whatever reason, we can't seem to escape them. So let's use them as a case study, even for 6 and 7. Okay, and for restoring their previous identity. Most of the people don't have a previous identity.
Yep.
I mean, like me, for instance, I was born in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my identity. There was no previous. So in tearing it down, and for a lot of people, in tearing it down, I mean, you're tearing them down. So there's no previous identity for to restore for a lot of people. And then in some of the other people, even with some of the old heads, not all of them, but some of them, what they were previous to TMOA or their cult might not have been anything that they are proud of or want to restore. They don't want to restore that, you know. You go from a person being just some random dude, you know, just running the street or whatever, or just, you know, with a 9 to 5, and then he becomes Khalifa so-and-so, or you know, somebody special. Nigga, he don't want to go back to that. He don't want to go back to just being, you know, I mean, somebody normal. So I mean, there's some nuance to it, but I think just to restore that or update their identity, I mean, we got people literally dressing as if they are from the Asian subcontinent, and they're just regular Negroes from America. So they ain't nothing to update. I mean, you really have to, like, maybe not update, but educate them on who you actually are. It's like, you know, the Dave Chappelle skit where the guy was
the blind guy.
He didn't know he didn't know he was actually black. Yeah, that type of situation going on.
Yeah. And maybe in the Islamic context is we have to emphasize that you are Muslim, you are part of a bigger picture than your little tiny group. Maybe that's, you know, the as far as identity, because whether you had identity before or your whole identity is with the cult or the group, it's, well, okay, you're Muslim, recognize that, be proud of that, be Muslim first, and then start from there and go forward, instead of, you know, this whole, you know, we're better than everybody and we're elite and we know everything. Now, I was having we have like 5 minutes left, so if you have any questions, post them. If you don't, then we're gonna end at 10 o'clock, right on the dot. But I was talking to someone today, and we're just reflecting on looking back at, you know, being in the cult, and I was just saying, like, man, I can't believe how ignorant I was. Like, it's really amazing how ignorant. And I'm not gonna say these people, because, like, you know, we were all, well, not all of us, but all at that certain point in there. Like, I know myself, I was all in the middle of it, and like inside the group, you would consider yourself to be educated, smart, whatever. But then looking back at my old self, I'm like, man, I didn't know anything about Islam, really, you know. So, you know, really connect to being a Muslim, you know, embrace the fact that you don't know anything and you have to relearn everything from start, you know, to that's part of the unbrainwash, or what do you call it, deprogramming yourself, is to relearn everything. Go back to the Alif Ba Tas, go back to the Fatiha, go back to the 5 pillars, go back to the 6 articles of faith, go right back to the roots and learn everything from the beginning. Because if you don't have, you may know a certain hadith, you may know a certain ayat, but if you didn't learn it in the proper context and the proper perspective from La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the correct akida, you would have a complete different understanding when you learn it, when you have the right paradigm, the right context to learn these things. So you really have to start back from the beginning. And we can't emphasize that enough. Let's see. Do we have any questions? I think we're on time. Good.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope. I think we're good.
So
Yeah.
we do have a programming note that what we're going to start doing, because we have noticed that there are a lot of issues, within the cult, inside, outside, around the cult, and just in life in general, a lot of issues with relationships and marriage, divorce, everything surrounding men and their relationships, not just to make it only about men, but we do feel like we need to address certain topics because we keep getting questions and issues are coming up surrounding it. And so what we will try to do, at least, I would say at least once a month, where we will have a show that will really be focused on because hey, we are men, so it is from our perspective, but it's not just for men, but dealing with relationships, whether that is people who are thinking about getting married, or people who are married, people who are divorced, people are thinking about getting divorced, people, everything surrounding men and their relationships with women. We will try to address some of the topics that have come up and the questions that we've been asked, and some of the issues that we think due to either experience or due to some education that we have, that we think we can help, because there's a lot of people that need help with these issues. So next week, the first of these shows will be on Wednesday of next week. I think we agreed on that. So Wednesday of next week at the normal show time, but it'll be on Wednesday. The first thing we will cover is it is a kind of a write-up or a talk by Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen about the 7 types of women that you should not marry. So the 7 types of women that you should not marry, and we will we'll post a link to this on our various social medias or whatever, so that people can get an idea of it. But we really want the input from the women. You don't have to, if you want to come on the show, you can and talk about it. But please leave your input on these 7 different categories, and give us your questions, your comments, your concerns regarding it, whether you agree, disagree, or whatever, so that we can kind of have an idea, especially from the women, but the men also have a look at it, and then we will go through them, we will discuss them, because I think it would be very, very, very helpful to break it down. And we'll go forward with things like that and some other things that would be helpful for young men, old men, medium men, and women who are dealing with their relationships, because every person is either going to be in a relationship, or they are the result of a relationship, so they should know about relationship, inshallah. I think that's all I got. Anything else to add there?
Yeah, so
Ryan?
we'll post the link on our Facebook page and on our YouTube notifications, so that you guys can read the article and look them over. If you want to submit questions or comments or perspectives, you can email us at email r2f@gmail.com, or you can send a message to our Facebook page, which is a private message, so like no one has to know. You can make a comment on the thread if you want, if you're not worried about being anonymous or anything like that. But we would like your input, and the more input we have, the more perspectives we have, the more we can benefit the viewers, and we all can benefit from the conversation. I'm looking forward to the conversation as well, because we all, like Mubarak said, we all are in this some sort of situation, some sort of relationship, and we need to learn from these things and learn from the ulama of the past that have more knowledge about these things than all of us. So I think we're good for tonight.
Yes, close us out, Sheikh.
Okay. All right. We'll close out with a with an ayah from Surah. Which surah is it? Surah Al-Ankabut. Because it just came to my mind now, because I was thinking of our Uncle Abdul Azim, in which something funny happened a few days ago. But what Allah talks about, and we are talking about various topics and issues with cults and different things, and it has to do with the dunya, but also the the akhirah, and we can't forget our our dunya and just chase the akhirah, and vice versa. We can't forget either. So if I can find this this ayah so that I can make sure that I don't mess anything up here. One moment here. It just came to me, inshallah. Okay. So la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Okay. Okay. So what does Allah say in Surah Al-Ankabut? وابتغي فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنسى نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا نبتغي الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين. What does Allah say? وابتغي فيما آتاك الله, and seek with what Allah has given you in ad-dar al-akhirah. Seek what Allah has given you for the afterlife. So whatever Allah has given you, that we should try to seek the afterlife with it. But Allah says right after that, وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, and don't forget your portion of this life. So as we go forward, we will start talking about a lot of things that have to do with the akhirah and how you should be thinking about in choosing spouses or choosing where to live, how to run your home, and different things like that based on your akhirah, based on what you can get in the next life. But at the same time, our dunya, we have to live here for, however long, 20, 30, 40, 50, or however maybe 100 years. And a lot of times it is with another person or another people. So just because the next life is your permanent home, doesn't mean you have to forget about your dunya, and that you have to not worry about being miserable or not in this life. So that's what we will try to get across going forward, is that we will definitely try to build for our akhirah, but وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, we will not forget our portion of the dunya, inshallah. وَأَحْسِن, and do well as أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ, as Allah has done for you. وَلَا نَبْتَغِي الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and don't seek to cause corruption in the land. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ, and Allah does not like the mufsideen. And one of the biggest corruptors, the fasad that's caused in the earth, Allah is saying, don't do that while you're seeking your comforts and your enjoyment and your safety, security, whatever it is in the dunya. Don't be a corrupter in the land. Don't cause fasad in the land. And the biggest way, one of the biggest ways to cause fasad is shaitan's favorite thing. And shaitan's favorite thing, there's a hadith about it. We won't get into it this time. Maybe in future shows we will break down the hadith in detail. But the hadith in which shaitan, Rasulullah says that shaitan's favorite thing is to separate husband and wife, to cause discord between a husband and a wife. And if you know that even before you get married, you know that shaitan, as soon as you tie the knot, shaitan is going to be trying to separate you. And this is one of the biggest corruptions, the biggest fasad in the land. So Allah is saying, and don't seek to cause corruption and fasad in the earth. Inna Allah la yuhibbul mufsideen. Allah does not love the mufsideen. So these are the things that we will try to implement and do going forward. May Allah make it easy for us to do so and accept our efforts and gather us together in Jannatul Firdaus. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun